Okay, we are live. So, Steve, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation. Just to introduce Steve, Steve has been a real veteran of recruiting industry. If I'm not wrong, Steve, you've been in the game for about 25 years. Have seen
22. Don't age me even more. 22.
okay, 22 years. Has seen a lot. You have seen, a couple of recessions, and we are going to talk about that. Steve is the founder and founder and the CEO of Howard Lee. Howard Lee is a headhunting firm focused on B2B sales, pre-sales, and account executive recruiting. Right. So thanks so much, Steve.
Pleasure to be here.
Well, to start off with, I want to understand, how did you get into the recruiting? So you are a lawyer by education, right?
I have a law degree. Yeah, I went to Cal State Northridge for radio, TV, film, and then I went to law school. And I decided after about the first year of law school, it's something I just really did not want to do. But I took the bar exam a couple times, and I think I missed by 3 points, and then I think 8 points, which was kind of indicative of I just didn't really want to do this. When I went to law school, actually, there was a show on TV called LA Law, which was really big.
Yeah.
And at the time, what I really wanted to do was, and I didn't realize, I thought I wanted to be an entertainment attorney, but what I really wanted to be was an agent for bands, because I'm a musician, and I thought that would be a great job. At the time, there was no what we call the Google to look up information, and I didn't really know anybody to go talk to, kind of more clearly define exactly what I wanted to do. When I was in law school, then I kind of found out more about it, and I'm like, wow, an entertainment attorney is more like a paper pusher that does contracts, and I just didn't want to do that. But while I was in there, they kicked out about 56% of my class the first year.
Wow.
I got through the first year, and then, kind of my parents said, just continue. You're already there. It'll come in handy. So I just kind of kept going. But looking back, I really just, I should have just bailed out, I guess. But it's really come in handy for the recruiting business, for the sheer reason that it teaches you to take in a lot of information quickly and just be able to disseminate the information down to very small bits of information. So it's been a good thing to have. And I ended up getting in the business. I went into the life insurance business. I was selling life insurance in Beverly Hills.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I went to a recruiting firm. It happened to be my dad was doing recruiting with somebody else, one of his partners. And they had a board up, which was a monthly board that showed all the numbers. I did not know what the numbers were. So I simply said, what are these numbers? And I was told those are the monthly numbers. And I saw 47, 42, 62. And I'm like, what is that? And he said, those are month. I said, yeah, but I don't understand. What is that? Well, those are the monthly numbers of what people do. I go, yeah, but what does 62 stand for? Well, that guy did 62,000. That guy did 47,000. I'm like, wait a second. That guy, because it was a kind of a friend of mine, that guy did 42,000 last month. I'm like, well, he had to get lucky, clearly. What did he do the month before? So they looked it up. I go, well, he did 54,000 the month before. I go, no way. No, I wasn't a math wizard, but I didn't make that the month before in life insurance, nor the month before that. And so the biggest problem was I just didn't want to do what my dad did.
Yeah.
Like, I go, no, I was fighting that with every ounce of my being. But I had kids. And so I'm like, okay, well, at some point I just said, well, there's more money in that than what I was doing in life insurance at the time. So I started recruiting. I went to a firm in Los Angeles, and after 7 months, I did really well. The guy fired me because he tried to keep some of my money. And then I ended up driving to Newport Beach. I ended up working at my dad's firm for a bit. And I've been doing it ever since.
Wow. It's kind of, it's been in your blood, kind of a thing.
Yeah, well, I think just being a sales guy, my dad was a sales guy his virtually his entire life.
Yeah.
So I think, I think that has just been something that I've heard about my entire life. Just like, yeah, I can do this. It was all about the number of dials you made, because that was really the big form of communication,
Wow.
just getting people on the phone. And you just worked. And I got in the office early, and I just was always the last one to leave, because that was like, my dad said, listen, this is what you're going to have to do. And you're going to have to tell your wife, like, this is just how it's going to be. And I'm like, okay, this is what I did. I just worked. And to this day, that's just what I do. I just work, because this business, I think what a lot of people don't understand is this is a very hard business. There's no secret, there's no tricks, there's no easy way out. This is hard work.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Everybody wants to look for shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. You can try to set up systems, which you have to do, but you still have to, at the end of the day, talk to people. No matter what systems you set up, you need to talk to people. And that's what I do every day. And I still really love it. I'm very, very lucky that way. I enjoy talking to people. And most of the people that we get to talk to are really good human beings. And that's my number one thing I tell people. 95% of the battle in this business is finding good people to work with and for. If you don't have that, run.
Yeah, that's true.
Nothing else matters. Got to have good people. And that's really how I ended up in the business.
Wow. And so it is still a lot of hard work, but the tactics have changed. So what kind of change have you seen in tactics in, let's say, last 10 years or 20 years time frame?
Well, I think the access to the information is obviously a lot better now, right? And I think, when I can tell you that, for example, when LinkedIn came into being, we kept hearing, wow, this is going to kill recruiting, blah, 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 right? And then when other social sites came into being, whether it's, Indeed or the ladders, or, we always hear, wow, recruiting is going to go down, blah, because they're going to be easily able to. As it turns out, it's actually made it tougher for most companies, because everybody thinks, well, the candidates are right there, right? We can just contact them ourselves.
Mhm.
Well, particularly on the higher level candidates, it's actually made it better for our business.
Absolutely.
The thought process that, well, everybody's there. In other words, technically, if you think about it, you don't. In other words, you could say, well, people go, well, I don't really need a database because LinkedIn's my database. Well, that's such a massively false assumption, right? Because LinkedIn is such a massive database that if you think that you're just going to work from LinkedIn, you're so all over the place as a company that you have no focus. Those firms that are doing the best are the ones that have narrowed down their focus. Number one. So number two, the reality is, yes, everybody for the most part is on LinkedIn in
Yeah.
some form or fashion, right? Whether their profile is great or not is all debatable, but who cares?
Yeah.
The reality is that it's made it tougher and tougher for companies to find good talent. It's tougher to figure out who's who. because now every company has different titles, and they want this new title to be fancier than the other, and this guy or this woman wants to be called this, and it's just made it more complex. Where before, when you could just tell somebody this is the top rep, and it is the top rep, and this is the title. It's a salesperson. It's not 4 levels or 7 levels of degrees of this. It was actually technically easier. So what's happened is, for companies, and a lot of companies, we even work with companies that have fantastic internal staffs, great HR, and we still work with them. They go, listen, we need help. We're struggling. That I think, as a company, just for the sheer wealth of knowledge that you can get has convoluted it. It's made it tougher, not easier. The ability to have the information is great. What do you do with it is make it tougher for companies. That's what we've experienced.
That
It's all there, and any piece of information that you want on a company is there. Not complicated to find. You just got to figure out, what do you do with it? What do you do with it? Where do you put it? Where do you put it in your system? Where do you, how do you go about when companies say to me, we are having a tough time? My first question is, why? It's there. In other words, are you having trouble identifying the top talent? Are you having trouble contacting? Are you having trouble closing them? What is it? Tell me what is going on. Because again, if you're telling me you can't find that person, we have another conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Because then truly, if you're telling me you can't find, we have a really interesting conversation going on. We can be very, very beneficial that way. If you're telling me you've tried to contact and can't, I'm going, that's a little interesting too. Why is that? Is your messaging poor? In other words, is there something going on in your company in terms of what your candidates might be hearing? In other words, do you have a poor image in the marketplace? We may need to fix that, right?
Sure.
Did the prior chief revenue officer, CEO, VP poison the well, right? Because that happens a lot,
Yeah.
right? In other words, hey, you tried to hire. Well, here's what happened. We already know you had 7 recruiters working on this, right?
Yeah.
And 4 of them did a shit job. So there's a lot of things to unpack when we're talking to companies. And unfortunately, in this industry, most recruiters don't take the time to find out the information. Oh, you're high? Okay, great. We'll take that job order. And then they'll just throw a bunch of shit in there, and they can't figure out why they can't do a good job.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem. There's no barrier to entry in this business. None. Zero. You can just, I'm a recruiter. Okay, good for you.
Yeah.
Right. Turn on your computer, plug your phone in, and you're in.
You're in.
Done.
That's true. That's why I think there are 20,000 staffing firms in just US.
20. Oh, so I'm in the wrong business. I should do your business. Right?
Yeah.
Think about it.
It's a very, very, the barrier to entry is really, really low. But if you think about it, right? So there is a huge power law distribution in terms of, the companies that are successful, right? So when I say successful, they have, at least, maybe 2 or 3 recruiters. It's not just one person. I mean, a lot of people are like, okay, I'm just going to be, one woman, one man show, and I'm happy with that, right? And they can be making a lot of money, right? So, and I can be wrong, but
no, you're right.
but but it's just that a lot of these businesses are not making a lot of money, right? And if so, I think if I remember this correctly, more than 95% of the businesses just don't go over 5 recruiters, right? So it's just the way it is.
Well, so here's the question. Why do you think that is?
this, right? So because there is first, right, because there is so much, it's so easy to become a recruiter, right? So
Number one, yes, right?
and second, it is so hard to become a good recruiter, right? That is really, really difficult, right? So,
That's that's one of the reasons. Here's the other reason. What is your definition of a lot of money?
well, I would say, if you're billing at least $300,000, a year.
Okay. How many recruiters do you think of those 20,000 bill over 300,000?
Oh, I don't know. I think if I were to take a guess, it would be about 2,000.
Um, maybe,
Maybe.
maybe.
Yeah.
Because that's probably, my gut would say that's probably in, what's percentage wise? I can't do
Say
math.
it's 1% of recruiters would make that
Yeah,
kind of.
maybe,
Yeah.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe it's two, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. That for, you have to remember, in the United States, I think the average salary is, I think they said it's $42,000. I think it's $42,000. So 300,000 for most people is so massively unachievable. It's not even funny.
It's not.
Not even funny. It's like it's out of the realm of all world possibilities. The other reason is this: most recruiters are paranoid that they're going to hire somebody and that they're going to train them and that they're just going to leave.
Okay.
Right? So they're going to they're going to bring them on, they're going to teach them how to, let's say, source first, or however they do their methodology, and that they're just going to end up being a competitor. Someone in, and I don't think it's fair to start someone as a full-time recruiter right now. I think there has to be, you should start them, this is just my opinion, as start them as a sourcer or a business development person. You got to teach, there's too much in this business right now. You got to teach them a piece and a part of this business to start. That's my opinion. I think it's too much. It's too many pieces right now to start someone as a full-time recruiter. I think it's really difficult. I was just super lucky that I had somebody to teach me all of the parts. And remember, when I started, there wasn't all of this. We're shooting off emails and having to go on LinkedIn and blah, blah, blah. And I don't do any of that.
Yeah.
Remember, even today, I have a team. Why? Because I don't want to do any of that shit. I want my day on the phones. If I am not on the phones, this business, I say, is losing money. The whole job of my team is like, get me on the phone, get me on the phone, get me on the phone, get me on the phone. That's the goal, because that's how we make money. And
Right.
so for a new recruiter, how are they going to do that? They're going to spend most of their time on email, right? On LinkedIn, on whatever, if they're doing social media stuff. Most people don't pick up the phone,
Yeah. That's true.
right?
Yeah.
But for me, I want people on the phone. So my whole day is devoted. I go get these people on the phone, put them on the calendar, figure out a way to get them on the phone. Because all I care about at the end of the day, I love social media. It's awesome. I think it's fantastic. However, again, I teach people this: phone or video. Video's fine, whatever, but some way that we got to talk. And we have candidates that go, hey, you need to tell me the job. You need to tell me on email. I go, here's the deal. I'm old school. I don't do business that way. And if you're not interested, if your career is not important enough for you to spend 5 or 10 minutes with me talking about your career, I said, I completely understand. Then you're not really interested in moving forward in your career. I said, it's not a problem. Whenever you are, let me know. And people freak out. They're like, well, I don't understand why you won't. I said, I'm not interested in engaging. I said, listen, you don't understand. I'm not interested in engaging in this kind of conversation. Again, when you're ready to talk, just call me anytime. But I'm not doing that bullshit, because again, there's too many people that are not trained properly in how to deal with that. Like, I don't have to do that shit. I'm doing this 22 years. You can play my way or not. It's okay, right?
If you are new to the business, um, you know, it can be a bit overwhelming to get on the phone with a hiring manager, or if you're trying to make a senior hire, because on email you have time to think, and then create a response. But on phone you are having a synchronous conversation, right? So you have to be ready to think on your feet and then ask the right questions to get the answers that you want, right? Which is a much harder thing to do, right? And that's
Yes,
what, yeah,
right. But right.
that,
But any sale, look, I don't care what you're selling. Look, it does not matter. Part of the look, I think part of the issue the whole industry is facing is this. There are a lot of people that, and it's not just people getting into the industry. There's a lot of people that are in the industry
yeah,
want to hide behind the emails, the LinkedIn invites, the and look, you can't measure a recruiter's output anymore by how many calls they make. We're real clear on that. That's that's not what I'm saying. There are a lot of ways to get the job done. We're very clear on that. But no matter what, you still have to be able to talk on the phone.
sure,
That will, I don't care what you're selling to, it doesn't matter. You still need the ability to engage somehow on a live level. And a lot of people are trying to say, well, no, you don't really need to do that. And that's ridiculous. That's just stupid. Because if you can't have a back and forth dialogue, if you can't handle objections, and I'm talking basic objections, and realize that they're just objections. It's someone's way of saying, listen, tell me more, right?
yeah,
And it may be someone's way of saying, look, I don't believe one thing you're saying. It may be someone's way of saying, I don't like you personally. Whatever it is, it's okay. It's part of being in sales. And if you don't understand on any level that you're not going to sell to everybody, and it doesn't matter. It's all about building relationships for the future. There are there are there there are people that I've called for years. I went after one guy for 15 years. 15 years I called this guy. And I mean, he finally said, he goes, do you know how long you've called me? I go, uh-huh. He goes, no, really, do you know how long you've called me? I said, I've been calling you for 15 years. He goes, dude, what do you want? And I go, what do you think I want? I go, I'm trying to do some business with you. He goes, he goes, he goes, I don't understand. Like, how is it possible you've called me for so long? I go, I don't understand. I don't even understand this question. I go, you never told me no. He goes, no. I go, are we doing some business? And he goes, I guess so. And I go, all right, so let's get this done. And, and look, my thing is, most salespeople just give up way too easy, or they take it personally, right? Or that day they're not feeling good, or there's a pandemic going on, right? And they want to use it as an excuse. I just have simply taken the approach of, I don't care. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
yeah,
There's nothing you're going to say to me. Now, at the same time, I'm very respectful of people's time.
mhm,
When I call somebody, I always ask them, and there's a big debate about this, but I always say, look, did I catch you at a good time? Right? Because I want people to do that with me. My time is very valuable. Um, and I think people really appreciate this. I also tell them, look, I'm going to be, there's sometimes where I will call them and I'll say, listen, and I like this. I'll say, I only have a minute, right? I'll tell them, and or I'll only have a brief moment, just to tell them, look, I'm going to be really succinct in what I'm saying. I also really quickly identify who I am. what I do. In other words, I say, look, it's Steve LePatner. I'm with Howard Lean Associates. I'm a recruiter. We 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 place software sales depending on exactly who I'm speaking with. Obviously, I'm very clear. No BS. I don't like this. Hey, someone told me to call you. Call me back. I don't like that. That's just for me, and I know it works for other people. I've got no objection to that. If it works for them, I don't do that. I like to be very clear and direct, because if someone's calling me back, I want, oh, they're calling me back for a clear reason. Again, I don't want to waste my time.
Sure.
That's just how I was trained, and it seems to be working after 22 years. And again, I'm super open because I've learned a lot from other people, and there's some great trainers out there that I've learned stuff from. I have coaches that there's some coaches I pay a lot of money to every month. Um, I'm always open to learning. I think that's part of the beauty of owning a business.
Mhm.
But I also think that's one of the other issues that we face. A lot of recruiters just kind of think, oh, I know it. I got it. Like, I've been doing it a while. But this business changes so rapidly. I think you have to stay in touch with what's going on. I think you've probably seen that, right? In the time you've been in business, everything changes really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, and I
And,
think we're going to see even more change now with the pandemic.
yeah, and it's since you mentioned pandemic, and you've been through the housing bubble recession. Um, can you maybe give us some advice to younger recruiters out there in terms of how you navigated through that crisis and survived and thrived in that environment?
So look, I mean, I've been through 9/11. I've been through like a lot of different quote crisis times. We completely changed our, I would say, our business design and model when the pandemic hit.
Okay,
And basically, what I told everybody is, if you're not in some form of business development with our company, um, you can't stay here.
sure.
Right? So then I said, okay, who's in business development? Everybody said, I am, I am, I am. I said, good. That's all I wanted to know. Um, and I said to everybody, this is going to be extremely difficult. And I said, and this is just my best guess, it's going to be at least a couple of years, right? And I said, if you think that you were working hard before, I said, I will assure you, and again, just best guess, because that's all everybody is anybody thinks they're telling you what's going to happen doesn't know. Nobody knows. I said, again, just best guess. You're going to work crazy hard for the next couple of years. And I just said, and I'm just telling you, it's going to be really hard. It's just going to be a grind. And I said, what we need to do is we are going to have to be even more selective in what we work. It's not the other way. I think what a lot of people believe is, oh, we got to just get a bunch more job orders more. And I said, it's the exact opposite. We have to make sure the work that we take is absolutely quality work with quality people, and where they are absolutely 100% committed to hiring. So the tendency is for people to panic. And the tendency is, oh man, we're going to take anything that comes in and we're going to expand our offerings and blah, blah, blah. And I go, nope, that's the wrong tactic to take in business right now. Not only that, I said, we're not going to take, I don't want new. Like, new can be absolutely dangerous in this marketplace. In other words, oh, let's just see if we can find this or that in this marketplace. Or if you hear any kind of, oh, we can really undercut and we can get people cheaper. I go, nope, we're not taking any of that nonsense either. No way. And I said, I want only shared risk, or what people call retained business,
Mhm.
or exclusive. That's it. I don't want anything else. Nothing else. Because what happens is people have to have a massive motivation to hire, and it's got to be quick, and it's got to be no nonsense.
Right.
And I said, I'd rather work on nothing, zero, because it's just a big waste of time. I mean, why? How do I know this? Because for 9/11, I remember coming out, right? I remember exactly what happened, and I remember the mistakes that I made for the first couple of months. And I'm like, I'm not doing this again. Nothing is the same right now. The way you go about talking to clients is different. The way you're, we do a lot of marketing, all different, all different. And we're still, even at this stage, trying to figure that out, like kind of what exactly should the messaging be. And again, there's a lot of experts and gurus, and it's got to be this. And you know what? We still haven't quite figured it all out.
Yeah.
We haven't. And I'd love to lie to you and tell you we have, but we haven't. Some of the messaging's working, some of it's not, right? Some of it's completely falling flat. Um, and it's going to be a process. It just is a process. And if you are not organized properly with a database, and again, if you were thinking, oh, I'll just use LinkedIn, because I'm sure you get that a bunch. Oh, I can just use LinkedIn. You can't. You can't. You can't run your business properly that way. It's not. You are not streamlined enough as a firm, or you just don't understand process well enough to do it. Then you're even in bigger trouble.
Yeah.
So those that are left over, your business should actually thrive. Once, I mean, again, it may be a couple of months, right? Because people are just still, a lot of people are just kind of in panic mode. They just don't know what to do. And I understand that. If you haven't been through this, it's very nerve wracking. I completely understand that. But once they figure out that they need a path that makes sense, having the organization, and you have to understand, like I can tell you from my end, I am not an organized human being.
Yeah.
That's not my strong suit. I I I I can't. I have ADD.
Hmm.
I have OCD, and when they come crashing in together, it's an interesting combination. But what I have learned over the years is most recruiting firms are just a hodgepodge mess of, oh, we'll just do a little of this, but you need an organizational structure to run your company properly. And having a database that is organized, and I can just tell you what I really liked about Recruiterflow for me personally is that visually, and particularly having the ability to everything laid out, I can see it. Uh, it made it really nice for me. Visually, for me, it works. It also gives me the ability to not have to toggle back and forth 16 times. Is really great. It allows me to work my business the way I need to. And also the coordination also with LinkedIn is really nice, because I think you have to do that today. It's like LinkedIn is just a part of your life. If they end up kicking recruiters off, it's going to make a life for a lot of people very difficult.
Yeah.
Right? It just will. I mean, that's just. I we are. I prepared my team. I said that is going to happen. Just presume that's going to happen at some point. I mean, there's other ways technically around it. It'll just be a little more difficult. Prepare for that. But right now, it's nice to have the ability to go back and forth inside the database, in LinkedIn, outside, back and forth. And I think you guys make that easy to do, which is super, super important. Um, and I think you'll actually have a really good opportunity once it all settles down.
Okay, so what I want to do, Steve, is I wanted to ask you this, right? So you mentioned something that is quite contradictory to most of the advice out there, right? Which is, in a difficult time like this, narrow down, right? So narrow down your focus, which is quite paradoxical. Um, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, what went
Yeah.
wrong with you in the past when you tried to, go wider in terms
Yeah.
of your
Yeah.
work?
It wasn't that I went wider. So I've only done one thing in my entire career. I've only worked in software. That's
Sure.
all I've done. I don't know how to do anything else. So what I meant by that was, so because when I started, I did a lot of, I didn't narrow the focus in terms of, hey, I took a more like contingency type work, right? So when you take on contingency work, and it doesn't mean I won't take on any contingency work. I want to be super clear on that. Um, uh, but like, for example, when 9/11 hit, um, I think all my business was contingency. I was newer in the business, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't at that time, I didn't take the necessary time with all of the job orders to really narrow it down and kind of say, listen, um, tell me where you are in the process, how many recruiters are working on this, right? Just kind of really like, I am really super hardcore uh, when I take on work. In other words, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my team's time. Um, I think it's, I think the percentage for contingency, depending on who you talk to, for completed searches, somewhere around 22%,
Yeah.
something like that,
Yeah.
right? Now, ours candidly is significantly better than that, right? But it's still way, way less than taking on, or again, a shared risk, or what most people refer to as retained or exclusive. So for us to take on a contingent search, uh, a lot of factors have to be in play that are all really, really good, right? And again, most of the time, if I'm taking on one of those, it's traditionally with somebody I've known a really long time, and there better be a really good factor why they cannot cut me a check, right? Because if you can't, if, in other words, if you can't cut me a check, and also when I ask for a check for a company, I'm not asking for a massive check. I'm just asking for something to say, listen, we're in this boat together. So if we're doing let's say a salesperson, I'm asking them to cut me a check for typically like maybe eight or $9,000. It's not, I'm not asking for a $20,000 check. Just cut me something that shows we're in this boat together. And most software companies, it's not a big deal,
Yeah.
right? I will not work any, I do also, I place VPs, chief revenue officers, RVPs. I will not do any of those without a check. If it's, that's it, end of story. I'm not doing any of those that are not retained. Just under no circumstance. I'm not doing it. Why? Because the candidates will not take you seriously, right? And
Right.
that means the company's not serious about it. So right now, again, if the company is not super serious about hiring, why am I wasting my time? In other words, in this marketplace, if you're serious about hiring, and the thought process is, well, all these candidates are, look, because some companies are under the impression that this should be easy pickings. It's harder to find good candidates, not easier.
Yeah.
Who in their right mind, this is what I've had to tell several companies. Think about this. We're in a pandemic. Most of the candidates are married, right? And again, this is just reality. I say, and most of, in our industry, most of the candidates they are looking for are men. That's just statistically how it is, right? This is just reality.
Yeah.
They're men, and most of them are married. Most of them are married with children. They have to go and have a conversation with their families. Guess what? I want to change jobs. And most of the wives go, you're what? In this? No, you're not, right?
Yeah.
Who in their right mind wants to go have that conversation right now?
Yeah.
And I said, and you think it's easy to get somebody who's making $500,000 to just change to
Yeah.
go to your stupid company? I go, no, it's harder right now. It's not easier.
Way harder.
It's way harder. I go, and you're not paying me for someone who's on the street. You're paying me for someone who's crushing their numbers. I go, wait a second. I go, let's have a real conversation. And they're like, oh yeah, I never thought about it like that. I go, let's take you for example. If I call you, what's it going to take for you to go? I would never leave. I go, exactly. So, right. So, oh, oh yeah, I kind of know what you're talking about, right? So if you're telling me you have a need, it's got to be a serious need. In other words, your job's on the line, right? You have some quota that you have to hit. I need to hear something that says something is going to fold. There is some massive need. If not, I'm not taking the job order. That's why I'm saying I'm narrowing the focus. It's not like if the right candidate comes along, we'll think about hiring. No,
That doesn't work.
no, bullshit, right? You need to tell me I'm going to get fired. Something, I need to hear something that says, whoa, this is a massive need right now. Or if not, I'm not working. I'll go find something else.
Yeah.
This goes back to, I will continue to work. I know the metrics, right? I know right now I need to make roughly about 22 business development calls to get a quality job order. Those are the numbers right now. Now, it could be 27. I also know there could be 4 calls, right? Because I've been doing it a while, but I know the metrics. This is what the number is. Most recruiters don't know the metrics. They don't even know what metrics are. Metrics, what does that mean? But I know the metrics. I know the numbers I have to hit every single week. That means every single week. That doesn't mean some weeks, right?
Yeah.
But at least I know if I'm having a crap week, I go, well, here's the number. I better make some more calls. And I go, here's the number we need. Here's our closing ratios. Okay, we just got to make more.
Yeah, exactly. I like to call this, it's not me, but there is this guy, I can't recall his name, and he gave this name called Predictable Revenue. It's a book.
Yes, Aaron Ross.
Yeah, Aaron Ross.
Guy's brilliant.
Yeah,
the whole company, brilliant, fantastic. Yeah, that guy's. Also, he has 9 kids, so how he does anything, I don't know. Like just spot on with his methodology. He's got a really great company. The people that work for the company are really quality. They do a lot of videos on YouTube. Yeah, really good stuff. Very impressive. But nine, that's the most impressive thing of anything. I'm like, 9 kids and he can still function. I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Thank you so much, Steve, for taking the time out and talking with us. It was really, really insightful and an immense pleasure to speak with you. Have a great day ahead, Steve.